This is the Oakwyn Podcast, featuring Morgan Brown and Michael Yu.
Welcome to the Oakwyn Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Yu.
And I'm Morgan Brown.
And we have a very special guest today, Jenny Wun.
Jenny Wun.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Woo, woo. Do we go woon, woon, woon?
It's like Arsenio Hall,
Wait.
right? Like
Woon, woon,
Oh my
woon,
God.
woon, woon, woon.
The bullying is coming back. Those nightmares are coming back from high school.
Oh, really?
Were you bullied?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in an all American white Caucasian school when I was growing up,
Oh my God.
and
so
so
you're
I was made
dark.
fun
Okay.
of my eyes and my nose.
Really? When?
Isn't that
Okay, so
funny?
this was in California,
It was,
right? Yeah.
yeah.
Share. Okay,
Yeah,
so
let's
tell
talk
us,
about
yeah.
Jenny Wun.
Yeah.
I know
the
you.
school days.
Usually, that's what you ask me is tell me about yourself. So yeah, that's a great opening is talking about my childhood upbringing.
Yeah.
I was born in California, and I went to a private school.
Okay. Did
Caucasian,
you wear
they're
a
all
private school
Caucasians.
outfit?
That school you didn't have to for some reason, but
Okay.
it was private. And
I'm just trying to set the tone of this.
I do remember that there was an assembly. We always lined up, Star Spangled Banner. That's what we would sing every day.
Okay.
And I actually did not do well in school up until grade 2. I was bullied. I would always be sitting in the principal's office. And I don't know if you guys had the same thing, but my mom always gave me this thermos with rice
Right.
and Chinese sausage.
So jealous of those kids.
Yeah.
But the cool kids ate in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
So I would be sitting during lunch in the
Yes.
cafeteria with my thermos and rice, my Chinese rice. So I think because I was different and
Yeah.
it people just made fun of me and for my nose and the shape of my nose, the shape of my eyes. And so I sat in the principal's office eating my lunch all the time.
Do you feel like that made you stronger? Because you bring that up and you're like, it's funny. You see it in your eyes. You're like, really
Yeah.
okay with it all. You're like, yeah, I'm fine.
I think that really set the path to my high school days too, because I knew that I wouldn't fit in. It was okay for me not to fit in. And so there was that popular crowd. There was the jock club. There was the yearbook social club. And I actually just became friends with everyone and just did my own thing. And I started working really hard when I was 13, just making my own money and
Oh my God.
and so
We're the same people.
Why did you stay in the principal's office?
it was the safest space.
Oh, really?
You know
So-
what? You remember when you went to high school, in elementary school, and there was always kids in this office? Do you remember that?
I wasn't
remember that.
I wasn't teacher's pet. I wasn't principal's favorite.
It's just like a
kid.
safe place.
It was a safe place. I could eat my lunch in peace, and really that was the only space that I felt really comfortable.
So
What did
you-
your parents say to you?
I don't even think they know.
See, that's so funny you
No.
say that because a lot of parents don't know their kids were bullied because they're ashamed to tell their parents. I'm just getting into it now.
Yeah.
Well, what would they do? I didn't want the school was prestigious. It was really well known, and it had a really good school sports program, and I didn't want that to take over me and assume my identity.
So you kind of suffered in silence a little bit.
I think
Yeah.
it
Suffered in
Well, yeah, because you didn't tell your folks. You probably didn't tell.
she was okay with it. She came to terms with it.
And what made me really come out of my shell was my grade 3 teacher, Mrs. Erpenbach. And she really gave me a lot of confidence to raise my hand, to answer questions in school, in class, and just gave me, really good confidence where I was able to complete my homework without and ask questions. And so she was really inspiring. As soon as she was moving to Montana, I remember I was still writing letters,
Oh my gosh.
cards and everything for a
Erpenbach.
while. So, and it's funny, all these years she always comes to mind.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
she's really made an impact in
Teachers.
my life. Yeah.
How is that crazy that now you're the teacher?
I know, right? Well, my whole family is full of teachers. I have 4
okay.
teachers in the.
Okay, so tell us about that.
my sister's a teacher. My brother's a teacher. My sister-in-law is a kindergarten teacher,
Oh.
and then my brother-in-law is a retired teacher as well. So it's kind of in the family. I'm kind of the only one that's in the business realm. I got that from my dad. So it's
natural.
amazing. Yeah, my whole family's just so proud of them. They've done so well in their life. They have families. They own properties. They have great friends, circle of friends, and they're really healthy. So
Oh my gosh. I feel like teachers are. I have a cousin my aunt was a teacher, my cousin's a teacher, and she calls me to vent because she actually calls me. She's my age, and we're really close, and she's from Victoria, and she calls me to vent about just like how the process is and how everything. And then at the end of the day, she goes, "But I love what I do." Like she's like, "I just can't do anything else." I said, "Well, why don't you become a coach or what?" Me, I'm like, solve this problem.
Right.
And
Consulting.
Consulting. And she goes, I just love my kids.
Right.
I love it. And I think that's the best. It's such a,
you feel needed. Like you feel like you have a voice because everybody's listening to you. I remember when I was a kid in California, in my bedroom, I would teach my little brothers and sisters. Like I would pretend to be a teacher. And so it was like, kind of playing. That's how we played. Like
Oh, really?
most people played hide and seek. Like we played like teacher and student.
they literally played like storefront.
We played Office.
Arlene and-
Yeah. When we were growing up. That's so cool. So you played like teacher and students with your brothers and sisters and your friends?
Yeah,
Okay.
I remember. I could remember we had bunk beds, and I used like the metal piece of that bunk bed as like the chalkboard. So I would put, I don't know, something like a piece of paper on there, and I would like
Wow.
write lessons out.
Isn't that amazing? So Jenny. First of all, we're here to talk about one thing major here. It's
Yeah.
your new home
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Burnaby.
Yes.
Yeah, we just did an awesome, so Oakwyn Realty Northwest. We just did our grand opening with Jenny leading the charge there. Jenny, tell us
Leading it.
about the
Oh my
grand opening.
gosh.
Yeah, please.
I hope you guys had fun. I mean, okay, I know we sat down 2 years ago.
Right.
And it was in my dream. I even put it into my journal. I mentioned it to you guys in person.
Yeah.
And I said, all I want is to do a ribbon cutting, to
Yeah.
have
I
the
remember
mayor,
that.
to have the mayor cut the ribbon with me.
Mm-hmm.
And so every day, like almost every day, I would close my eyes. I would imagine this happening. Like I would play it in my head. It almost, and a couple times it's come into my dreams too. So the funny thing is that the mayor came to
Yeah.
the event, as you guys
Really
met
nice
him.
guy. Yes.
He actually didn't confirm that he was going to come until 2 days before the event.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't even know that the whole time he wasn't available. And so the counselors were confirmed to come. The DJ all set up, and a really good friend, realtor in the community in Burnaby, really good friends with the mayor, ended up being able to secure him and told him my story, tell him, what I'm trying to accomplish here as a community. And he
Right.
said, I'll be there for the ribbon cutting. And so he showed up, gave a speech. I cried right after because that moment of, I think I'm going to cry right now. Too.
Oh my God.
That moment of like, I guess reality came, and it was an amazing, amazing feeling.
I think it's, yeah, it's amazing. It was amazing watching it.
Yeah, like being there, because I remember Jenny and I talking about this very moment, like, and years before it actually even happened, with the ribbon cutting with the mayor, there was like a packed house, and everyone was having a great time. Like, people were, a lot of people obviously have, over the course of the last 2 years, haven't had a chance to connect with each other. And so people were just like really coming together. People I haven't seen in a long time as well.
Yeah.
And the mayor had an amazing speech about that exact site.
Yes.
I know.
Yes,
This is
I
old-
did not know that.
Go ahead, Jenny.
Go ahead.
So
Talk-
he
yeah.
actually spilled out that the fire hall he
Yeah.
worked at was in the exact same location as where the office was.
Yeah, so it was a special place for the mayor of Burnaby, because obviously being a former fireman, I don't know why. His name is slipping out of the top of my head, but
Mike Hurley.
Mike Hurley.
Yeah.
Curly
So
or
many
Hurley?
Mikes.
Hurley.
Hurley, Mike Hurley. Yeah, and he was just sharing his story of that he worked in that same location for 20 plus or 30 years of his career. You know, being a modern day hero, serving the community of Burnaby through firefighting and in that exact location. So it was like, it kind of sent a bit of a chill down my, my back.
it
when
gave
that
me
happened.
major.
And talk
goosebumps.
Yeah.
about serendipity. I, for some reason, I was looking at my independent contract agreement with you guys, and our event happened on June 15th.
Right.
And I signed the contract with you guys exactly the same day 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Like,
Yeah,
Isn't
she
that
said that in her
crazy?
speech, and I was like, "What?"
I didn't pick that
Jeez.
date for, I that was just a convenient date, but I for some reason was checking my
a good luck
contract
date
agreement,
now.
and I was like, yeah, June 15th. I
It's
got
a good luck date.
I got to get
Yeah.
my feng shui
Oh, yes.
master into the space and just
Yes.
really talk about the numbers and
Wow.
the
Yeah,
spatial distancing and like
It's usually your birthday. It's very, but I think it was so, like, the word to describe that event was just joyous. Like, everyone felt like there was a home there. I felt like people felt like it was necessary that it was coming
right.
to Burnaby. It was needed to come. It needed to come to Burnaby, right?
absolutely.
So it was very cool to see that, and it was cool to see our agents just so happy,
yeah.
and
yeah.
you so happy. But I also just, our people were just jazzed.
Well, there was vendors, all the partners that we work with, even other agents from other
events, yeah.
brokerages. I invited them as
I
well,
know.
and for them to see the space and we have coffee all the time at our space. They come by because they see it's a very open collab area, and so it's really nice to know that that it's a very open space for people to come in and enjoy and kind of connect. It's so important now.
Can we tell people what is in that space? People that have not been there, the video is coming out soon. That's
Absolutely,
for sure.
yeah.
But Jenny, tell people what is in that space.
So we have at the front, we have a collab area. And so there's a space for anyone to come in and work. Any agents from your office who are not part of Northwest are always invited. It's available for them to use. We also have a private boardroom area. We have a phone booth space where if you want to make Zoom calls or private phone calls. And more than anything, this is brand new news. I just purchased a home like in that same building.
Oh my
So
gosh.
talk about, living and working at the same space. But that just gets me closer to all the agents, which I'm really happy about. I know I
Yeah.
will never leave work, but I think that's my work ethic anyways.
Yes.
And what I really want are rooftop soirees, like
I was going to say, then now you have access to
yes.
common areas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because that's what you wanted.
Yes. And where's the patio summer events going to happen? At Burnaby.
I love it.
Yeah, nice.
Yes. Oh, well, congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
Yeah,
huge.
congratulations. New business, new home.
Yeah.
It all comes
That's
together.
incredible.
Yeah.
Well, I think that you, one thing that I've loved watching Jenny do during the time that she's opened her new home up in Burnaby is that you've taken the time to get to know every one of your agents, just like we do at Oakwyn, and kind of work with them individually. Can you talk a little bit about that to everyone and what your process is when agents come on board?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for asking. So as soon as they join, we have an intake session. And the intake session really just talks about where they are in their business or whether or not they've started anything. So it's really setting up, getting an understanding and insight of what they've been working on and where their strengths are. So then I do a summary of exactly where those gaps are and giving them the tools and to work with on their own. So one thing to keep in mind is that I can't want it as much as they want it. They have to want to work on their business.
Right.
Right.
And one of the myths people coming in is they don't understand that it's actually a business, that they're a business owner. So most people, I'm sure you guys find it too, is that they think it's a really easy business. But downright, it's all about the hard work and the work ethic and the discipline. And so what I found after bringing in some of the agents at the very beginning here is they don't recognize that there are areas of improvement or
Right.
growth. Right. So I've come up with a few programs. the first one is 3Bs. So the business building plan, business building blocks. So it's really setting up all the foundations and pillars that they need in their business if they're a new agent. And then there's the growth, the 3Gs, the great. It's kind of off my mind right now. The growth game greatness. So they're in that phase where they're really steady in their business and they really don't know how to scale. They don't know how to sustain.
They want to elevate.
They're really doing everything themselves.
Right.
And so in this capacity is how do they get to the five to the six figures? What kind of tools or resources can they add so that they can sustain that longevity in the business?
Right.
So yeah, I a couple of our agents, they've added assistants to their teams now through just my referrals. It's fantastic to see them grow in just 60 days. And then we have, I have another agent where they're kind of in that like retirement phase, like thinking of retirement, that long-term plan. So for me, it's a play-by-play succession plan. What that looks like is what can they do to grow the capital so that they have available resources when they retire?
Beautiful.
So how does that referral system look like?
Yeah.
How does passive income look like? But so those are kind of the three main foundations or programs that I've kind of created through just talking to agents of what they need. And then the brand new agents is like business essentials program. So I've kind of started on an online workshop program where it's all the tips and tools that they need to get their business going. And so there's like little articles or videos that they can watch that I've kind of produced already, scripts and worksheets that they can use that I've been using over the years.
Amazing.
So, a lot of it will obviously will generate as the questions come. But so far, it's from all the coaching that I've received in the past like 20 years.
Yeah.
I've really been able to take advantage of some of the things that I've learned in the past.
Right.
Yeah, and apply it to our industry, and specifically in Burnaby or in BC, and really focusing in on that, because a lot of the programs you did are actually not real estate related, but you've kind of incorporated a lot of stuff that you've learned, right? So maybe you can share with us some of your journey in receiving coaching a little bit, and some of the stuff that you found really valuable now that you're producing your own kind of material.
Right.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest advice that I have is don't be too attached to your outcome, because in our business there's so much changes that are outside of our control.
Right.
Whether that's the market, whether that's someone's purchasing or selling journey, their situation changes. And so how do you navigate and pivot through that? And so when you're so attached to expectations, you're really just getting in your own way. So that's what I've really learned from my coaches is we can set goals, but there's micro commitments throughout that journey, so that there's a piece of managing expectations, managing your emotional ride through it. But yeah, I would say building a business blueprint and your bigger why. So in 2017, 18, I'd say my transformation catalyst coach, I at one point I was at this breaking point of, why are we doing all this? Like, I felt maybe complacent. Like I felt like, what else is in this business for me? And so I identified my why and found certain containers or boundaries I needed to work with, because I think I was pleasing too much, pleasing other people too much. And so I wasn't able to really pinpoint like my biggest why for myself. And so,
What is your why? What is your why, Jenny? I want to know.
So my biggest why came from, and my whys have changed over the years. Of course, because of my life journey too, of all the chapters that I've been through. And my biggest why came from my separation. And so my separation cost me a lot of money. Like we're talking like 6-7 figures. And so I didn't sign prenup. I didn't sign a cohabitation agreement, which I now know is necessary. And so for me, it's protecting my assets and being financially independent and being able to control and manage my own assets. And so to me, that was my biggest lesson is is my biggest why is being financially independent and being knowing what your self-worth is.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Well, that gives you being financially independent. I think for me, it translates into like a level of freedom, right? To create, to be able to do what you'd like to do, and really, and kind of have that freedom to be able to, go on a trip if you want to go on a trip, or, order that thing at the restaurant and stuff like that. And, I think it's something that we really can't take for granted. And if we've kind of hit that financial independence, we've grabbed that rung, it's something that we should really be, really grateful for.
Grateful
sure.
for.
Yeah, and I think freedom doesn't mean financial as well. It could be about time.
Yeah.
Buying your time, that's the most valuable currency.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you manage and bring in members to help you to
Manage your
to
time.
manage that time?
Yeah. I think that's like the biggest learning lesson you can go through is figuring out how valuable your time is.
Yeah, totally.
And who you're wasting, not wasting, but also just draining. Also your energy. Your energy.
Yeah,
It's
and
time and
I think
energy.
agents have a problem with their valuing themselves a lot
It's
of the times,
valuing,
because
yeah.
we'll just get like owned by our clients sometimes, and then like we we just take all the insults and punishment, and then it's like, okay,
Who are
like,
you talking? Who are your clients?
Actually, one of the first times, like because I would like never fire, like rarely ever fire a client. Like over the 16 years I've been really blessed to have really, really great clients and
Yes.
awesome people, like kind, salt of the earth people. But I just had one client. I actually had to, like, I would 2 years ago or 3 years ago or even 10 years ago, I would never fire him because he was treating me and my team so badly. And then, but I kind of thought about my own value and my own boundaries, as you said, and which he continued to cross. And I was just like, yeah, this isn't going to work. And even though I invested, time, energy, efforts, and to engaging with them, like it just wasn't the right fit. So
I fired so many clients. Oh no, I have no time for it. I'm
Yeah.
like, if you're not going to listen to me, then this isn't going to work. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think when you go to a professional, you should really, you should respect that their craft. Like you go into a restaurant. It's not like I'm going behind the restaurant, the chef, and I'm like, that's wrong. You're doing the wrong thing. It's like, no, let them do their process, watch it come together. And also some people are not meant to work together. That's what I've learned over time.
Yeah.
Is that sometimes your chemistry doesn't work. You should just value what you say, what you do. And also you learn, there's also another process of that. Sometimes those people are there for you to learn and stretch yourself and to grow even more, but they should never be like disrespectful.
No,
That
and
should
then,
never
and
be
that's
a
where
thing.
there's misalignment in the principles and values of who you are as a person. And so when there's misalignment, there's that take that you're pleasing, but they're not really understanding that that's not who you are. It's not working
No.
well.
And it's weird because like by letting those kind of the misaligned people in your life go, you think that, oh my gosh, like maybe it's going to reduce your income or something like that. But actually what ends up happening is the reverse, is that you're given all this more time to be able to work with the right people and, do some very important things, other things even, like especially in this market now.
I think the tip of that is that you always set your expectations with your clients right away. Like
Yes.
just like right away.
Yeah.
This is how I'm going to work.
Yeah.
Are you okay with it? I had that same conversation the other day and I said, I'm not going to be at all the showings. Is that okay with you? And they're like, no, well, I'm like, well, then unfortunately it's not going to work, right? Because I can't be here for everything, but I have a great team that can. And then they change their mind. So now we know we have an agreement
Right.
in place. This is
Yeah.
what you now know it's going to come from me. And you can't work with everybody. That's just the truth.
Yeah.
So that's cool that you knew that was kind of the next phase of coaching too, that you had to transition and grow into that.
Yeah, it's fantastic because I naturally and genuinely I'm passionate about building other people's businesses. And a developer, a director of sales or VP of sales, she put it in a different way. She's like, you've really integrated the resale and pre-sale balance of like a resale agent working in pre-sales. And so I never thought about like my portfolio encompasses about 50 like pre-sale projects.
Right.
she kind of positioned where I've opened 50 businesses for the developer because I'm taking it from land assembly to building, like to designing the floor plans,
Right.
to branding it, to launching it. And I'm working with their budgets. And so it's been really fascinating to kind of compare it that way because
What a great way of putting it.
Yeah, it was just like, so it's natural to me. And so when I'm sitting down with our agents, one of them the other day was like, Jenny, you have such a great way of like looking at things. And I'm like, well, I don't know. It just comes naturally to me. He's like, I wish I had this. And I'm like, I guess it just comes from experience. You just know what needs to be done. More than anything, I think they just have fear in them.
Right.
They fear that they're not competent enough. They fear that they'll fail. And so you end up not doing it because you would rather not look bad. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
But you didn't start that way, obviously,
no,
having
there's a
that-
lot of
yeah.
learning curves. for
Yeah.
me. I mean, I'm still learning to this day.
Yeah, that's the best
Yeah.
part of our industry. We're constantly learning.
Yeah, I remember Jenny, I think she told this story on the podcast of her like working for a developer when she just got started and just like, all day, all night working. And probably that version of Jenny wouldn't have like this 10,000 foot above kind of scenario and strategic mind.
No.
That Jenny, but it evolves, right? And it changes and, you take the lessons along the way. And what's really awesome is that, what I noticed about Jenny is that when she kind of gets stuck or hits a plateau, she's willing to kind of like make some adjustments and not just kind of like, do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, or
get
ask for help or get,
It's not like you put a wall up and get defensive. You're just
Yeah.
like,
Right.
okay.
or
Yeah.
like get education or get a
Yes.
coach or
Yeah.
like, I don't feel like when you were talking about your poetry stuff, I'm like, man, that's so cool. Like,
Yeah. I'm
Like-
halfway done my book, so I'm really
Oh, wow.
excited.
Can't wait.
About
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it's about team culture and building a certain like ethos in
Sweet.
your workspace. So I'm really excited about that.
That's
too.
amazing.
Yeah.
I think we're so excited for Jenny to take on Northwest because one thing people don't know about it is it's all one big family at Oakwyn. So whether you're at Northwest or you're at North Vancouver or at Encore, we all are one big family. So for instance, our events, like our golf tournament events, our Christmas party and holiday parties
They're all
that we have,
shared,
they're all shared. And I think that that's what makes our team so strong, right? Because, of course, you're at the head of things, but the whole family is growing and going towards the same thing, which is just those core values that sit on every one of our walls. And we're putting each other first. That's the key thing.
Yeah, and you guys being available to the agents as well, and for my office, so blessed to have such great support on that side, and even my family sees it. Like they see that I'm not doing this alone. They see that I'm part of this bigger community, and the bigger reason of like how we're trying to what we're doing is like leveling up the business and
Totally.
this industry,
Changing the industry.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's an amazing thing to see because after seeing it and being at so many other brokerages in my past, it is a different capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it really
and
is.
it just changes the standard in the industry. When you're offering awesome things like the Triple B beginner, program or the growth program for an agent from this year 2 to year 10, kind of to level up or retire. Like offering these awesome programs and being available to them and serving instead of like kind of the managing broker owner kind of dictating down, but really serving your people. That just changes the whole industry's perspective of what a brokerage offers. And basically any other brokerage has to offer the same things. And if they don't, then, it's kind of like
Doing a disservice to
somewhat.
our industry. I feel like that.
And it sets a
You're
different
serving.
sets a different standard, definitely.
Yes.
And like, that's what we were kind of striving towards. And Jenny's like a huge part of it. And like, I've learned more from Jenny than she's learned from me for sure. And we
Can't
can
say
kind of, well, we just, we're on this kind of, it was funny.
Journey.
Yeah. I've actually been jogging.
Oh,
That's why I was late today. So like,
You jog here.
No, I didn't jog here. But I biked to our happy hour that time.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You're like, I was just
But so like, and I've been trying to do this thing, and because Jenny's a fitness nut, so she may appreciate this.
Yes.
So I've been trying to do this thing where like, so I want to jog 30 minutes straight without stopping before I turn 40. So I kind of have like this.
That's
This is like
cool.
one of my things
cool.
because
New goal.
I broke my leg, and I've been wanting to kind of achieve this thing, and I just want to be able to hit that thing, without stopping. So, and something that I've also tried to do is tried to stop distracting myself so much. So the reason why I was late today is because I was jogging, and I didn't bring a phone. I didn't bring anything. I just wanted to like.
That scares me.
Sorry?
That scares me. What if something happens? You have to knock on someone's door.
I'm pretty sure, like, I can scream really loud. I have a shriek, so maybe I'll bring my whistle with me.
Yeah.
That's not a distraction.
First of all, next time you see
Stranger
Mike
danger.
jogging, next time you see Mike
someone asked
jogging,
me.
someone have a whistle on.
Yeah.
Oh,
Someone asked me if they wanted to see some puppies, and I was like, I do. They're just in the back of the truck.
would you like some candy? Oh my gosh.
no.
Okay.
I love
we'll
candy.
get you one of those wristbands that say
Yeah.
call for help or
Yeah,
something.
call for help.
But
Yeah.
like, to go like to stop being so because I feel like there's so much distraction, like, and I know Jenny goes like, you've done your silence retreats, you've gone to your surfing things, you can't like put earphones in, and I probably a bunch of you guys are listening to this podcast like distracting yourself from being
On the road. You're distracting yourself on the road.
yeah, that which is kind of okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's fine. It's funny. It's kind of like sometimes it's the space in between where you actually get.
You're in silence. You
Yeah.
can actually self-reflect and do an introspective look into yourself.
Totally, and I know you do that kind of stuff
Yeah.
a lot, right?
Meditate?
So yeah, do
Do you
you
Tons
meditate?
of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
so-
got that from my dad.
Okay.
Yeah, lots of meditating. And so one of the things that I forgot to bring up is he is a business owner. He's from a family of 10. So youngest boy of all of 10 kids. And I went back to Thailand with him. And, he's I guess he's not a practicing Buddhist, but he grew up in that Buddhist environment. We went back to his hometown, and you know how in Thailand there's like in any Asian or even European, there's tons of like vendors where they're selling like
The front.
little trinkets
Before
and
going into the temples.
food and
Yes.
and so he actually brought me to this like space where there's a lot of vendors where they sell like clothes and shoes and like little like
Like a market.
souvenirs. And he showed me the space where he was living and where the space was like where the tarp was located. And my dad, he wasn't like, we were a middle class family growing up, but he came from like a very like not poor, but just wasn't the wealthiest. And so just seeing his work ethic and him being a business owner all these years as a small business smoke and gift shop in Toronto and California, I just got the habit of I guess meeting and connecting with people, with customers.
Yeah.
And so every customer that went through his store, everybody was so happy to see him because he knew them by first name. He knew what kind of gum they wanted to
my God.
buy.
Yeah.
He knew what kind of lotto ticket they wanted to purchase, what kind of cigarettes they wanted to buy. And so for me, the first thing that they wanted to do when they came to visit last month was see my space. And because it was tangible. It was tangible because they know I'm successful selling real estate, but being able to go and walk into a store, a storefront, to them it was like a sense of like following into his footsteps.
Did
in a
he
way.
tell you he was proud of you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh
Yeah,
my
he
gosh.
did. He did.
Isn't it awkward when your dad says that to you?
I couldn't handle it.
Shut up, la 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 la.
Yeah, like, don't. It could be a lot bigger.
Oh man, Asian fathers.
Yeah.
Just joking. Take that out.
out. my mom's probably a little bit harder in that sense. So my
Oh,
dad,
interesting.
yeah, because my dad is Thai, he has that bit of like personality where he's a
Yeah.
little bit more relaxed and
Chill.
kind of go with the flow.
Yeah.
And so I was like my mom when I was first in the business. I felt like I was like really hard and strong headed, but now it's like, okay, I've done that. You know, I don't need to worry as much. I don't need to be on so high strung all the time. So just with my dad meditating a lot, that's where I see how he's been really able to kind of stay in his space and be calm all the time, and really just be present
And
in the
take
moment.
take it in.
Yeah.
That's so special.
So going to that taking it in meditation thing, because I feel like so are you intentional about like how do you do that? Let's say is it a daily practice or is it just the times in between? Like what kind of is
What
there
do you
like
do?
Yeah, what do you do?
Yeah, it's a funny question because everybody thinks it's really hard.
I know.
I guess it is hard if you're really, if you have a lot on your list, but
Yeah.
if you're really organized and if you are prepared, you assign and allocate like time to whatever you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
But if you also allocate time to meditate, the funny thing is when I meditate, I'm not thinking about anything at all.
No.
It's completely silent. It's completely harmonious. It's a blank space. And so it's not necessarily trying to figure out what I need to do next in my day or vent or anything like that. In a moment of like silence of like 10 minutes in the morning, it could be intervals throughout the day. It really depends. It's not a routine of mine where I put it into my schedule. I just know that I'm doing it in the morning and in the evening.
Beautiful. It's like a
And-
tick off the list. of
Yeah,
it.
and
Yeah.
so whether it looks like you're sitting on your couch or lying in bed, or whether you're putting in some music, like those are all forms of meditation. In my opinion, what happens during this space is a release of this energy, and it can bring in creativity, like being creative. That energy flows looks different on everybody. And just like, so I wouldn't put expectations around the meditation. It could, for someone, it could be like really relaxing. For somebody else, it could be like learning more about yourself or letting go or healing of some sort.
And some people say that you can do it in a still, like being very still. And some people say that you can do it just by like walking slowly. Like it just depends on what your energy is. I think. I mean,
Yeah. There's so many forms.
there's so many different forms.
There's so many different
Yeah,
forms.
there's so many different forms.
And if you're really having a hard time getting started on it, is start with like 2 minutes and then 5 minutes, 10 minutes throughout the day. And so there is no rules to it. I think
Yeah.
you just have to really know, just get started is more than anything.
I think that's really important because, as a business owner, there's a lot of pressure on you. You know what I mean? Especially if you're just starting in real estate or you've been in real estate for a long time or you're in your own business, like you're not getting a regular paycheck or anything like that. So like there's pressure.
How do you
And-
deal with pressure? Is
I
that what
love
you're doing?
pressure. I don't
You live on it. See, I think she
I-
lives on pressure.
That's where I thrive. I like.
Pressure.
She hates pressure.
I actually just talked to my coach about pressure because I found that I was procrastinating quite a bit on things. And so on certain things, on other things, I know there's a lot of urgency, there's deadlines and stuff, but I was procrastinating on contract writing. So contracts to my team. So where if they're working on a sales site and I haven't delivered their sales contract yet, but they already started prospecting and calling. And why am I putting that last on the list? They're really important to me. They know they're going to be compensated really well.
Yeah.
So
Right.
is that
There's
my
that trust.
psychological? Yeah, there's that trust. However, I don't know their financial position.
You're just assuming.
I'm making
You're
assumptions.
making assumptions, which is
and
the
so
worst.
the thought of them
Yes.
having to think about when am I going to get my contract, I feel guilty. It's bad energy. It's
bad
energy that they
energy.
could actually sort out and put towards sales or their family or whatever. So my coach and I discovered that because I'm so loose with money, like not meaning like
Yeah.
I spend a lot,
Right.
it's just that I lost like 7 figures during my separation that in my head, I'm like, I've made money, I've lost money, but I'm still
okay.
here. I'm still
I'm
great.
fine.
I came
good.
out better.
Yeah.
And so I treated that as if that's their story. And so
Interesting.
that connection of like me being so loose with money is like, okay, well, it'll come. Like they know it's going to come.
It's gonna come.
But it's my story. It's not their story. Right. So I don't even know how I got to this story, but to tell
Talking
you
about
about this.
pressure.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the pressure. So how do I treat it? It's something that I think.
So then you switch it onto a pressure point where it's their pressure instead of yours, right? And now you
not
are not procrastinating.
intentionally,
Yeah, but now you're
yeah.
Now you're not procrastinating anymore because you're not writing the story for them anymore.
Totally.
I'm guessing.
Yes.
That's what.
So that evening,
Yes.
I solved it. I did my work. I sent out the contracts. It's off my plate.
Yes.
You know, it's done, and I shouldn't treat my like healing the same way. And putting it into like negative energy.
Yeah,
So.
you don't want to project your own kind of like I think everyone does this. You know,
Yeah.
they project their own kind of traumas and stuff like that on or things that they need to work on others. And I think that that's a natural and part of being a human being. And I think like when we're, it's when we have something important to do and we feel a little bit. Like it's weird because I'm trying to like remove guilt and stuff like that, because
That's
I
what he's working on.
that's what some things that I'm working on is because like I feel guilty sometimes, like, market's a little bit slow right now. So I have a little bit more free time and it makes me feel a bit guilty about like, hey, I'm like,
Should you be working harder? Is that
yeah,
what it is?
I feel like, and I think that that's pretty common with a lot of people.
Especially in our like time in the industry. I think people in the 5-year mark of our industry are
Okay.
still rushing to the door. They're picking up their phone. But because you guys have assets and you have things, you're not as quick to jump on things because money isn't as tight, if you know what I mean, for you guys.
Yeah,
I'm
I
staying out of
did
this.
notice. I was
Yeah,
speaking to an
big.
agent. I was speaking to an agent who was, I'm not going to name the brokerage that they're
Yeah.
at, but they felt like the people around him, they've been through like the ups and downs, like 7-8 times.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of taking like the colleagues are taking a step back and be like, well, I got capital, I got resources.
good.
I don't need to.
I'm good.
I don't
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
prospect. I don't need to get lead gen. I don't need to fill my pipelines. But this new agent is feeling like, okay, well, I'm not in your same situation.
Right.
No.
I need to step it up. This is my time actually. If no one's contacting you, well, I'm willing to take your clients, right? So
Yeah.
so this agent, they're gonna join tomorrow actually, or this after
Well,
the
you're
weekend.
Yeah, and I'm
lucky.
actually like, yeah,
You're lucky
that's
because you
great.
get to be with Jenny.
And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, well, I'll teach you how to prospect. That's follow-ups are like my forte.
I
Like,
love follow-ups. So good.
Yeah.
and so finding and picking the right brokerage is really important because you
Yeah.
want to be
Super important.
That's your
around that
community.
same energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, whenever I have to follow up with someone and I put it on my notes,
list?
do you go like FU? Like name?
Follow up,
Yeah,
oh.
follow up. Like,
Yeah. Follow-
that's like my note that I do to myself, like FU Jenny Wun. FU Morgan Brown. Like talk about this, like, because it's like follow up.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I don't know why that just popped in my-
Procrastination is very
when you said you're the
interesting,
queen
though.
of follow up. You're the queen of
I'm not.
Jenny's the
well,
queen of FUs.
Oh my god.
I know how to protect my space and energy, but I don't say it in those words.
It's a really.
Yeah.
It's
But I'm actually-
exciting.
yeah,
it's
super
exciting
exciting.
for Northwest.
And, yeah, and I'm actually like, Jenny and I met up for a coffee yesterday, and we're talking about the numbers already that inquiries and people coming through the office, and it's like, wow, it's pretty like.
It's bumping.
It's bumping. And I visited the office, met with some of the agents there. Everyone was just like, it had
It's a
this
good feel.
It has a great vibe, and it reminds me of like a startup where everyone cares. Like everyone's like, yeah, like, when I was there with a couple agents, and they're growing their business, and one agent specifically was like, I've not been bold enough to invest in my business by having an assistant and also doing some advertisements that are a bit more uncomfortable. And he's like, being here and talking to Jenny
taking it
and
and
a
go
few of the
for
other,
it.
I'm going for it. I'm investing. And
Yeah.
I was like, wow, man, like that's awesome. And we had like a great chat. And, he just had by being in that community where everyone is kind of in that growth mindset, he's like taking it to that next level. And I know like,
Yeah.
it's
I think
gonna
there's a
work
lot
out
of
really
people.
well.
I also think a lot of people have had 2 years of just not having each other. And I've noticed this not just in Jenny's office, but also our own offices, that you really are the company you keep. So people
Totally.
are like, when they're diving into this interest rate thing and they're diving into having conversations to their clients about what to say, they have people behind them, telling them what, different mindsets, different outlooks on it, or if they're tackling a new project, people around them are doing the same thing. So it makes it much easier for them to tackle and to work
yeah.
work around. And they don't
Yeah.
procrastinate; they go
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
So that's really cool to see. And I think everyone at Oakwyn, we're just so excited. We're right behind you. We're right there next to you. More like behind you. We're right next to you to run this race and to make sure that the Burnaby office is just going to be shining as bright as you.
Thank you.
Jenny?
And that's when even Michael we talked together like 8-9 years ago when I hadn't joined yet.
Right.
I was spilling out all the details of me like not feeling motivated and not feeling inspired. I was in an office where I was like the top producer, like the top producer for like 5 years in a row. And so who am I going to look up to? So by joining and being surrounded by the Steve Stretsky, by the Adam and Matt and Jessica Chen and like all those top producing agents, Peach Back, like they know how to run a business. And so I admire them for that. Like I've never compared myself, and I think that's super. That would be like you're just cutting yourself short all the time because all your insecurities would just exaggerate, right? But I've always admired agents in the business.
I think I need to make a big point here that we do, like there's a top 30 group of Oakwyn agents. That's the number one difference between them is none of them compare one another against each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They all admire the people in the room.
Yeah.
It's never like, oh, that person's doing better. What can I do?
Right.
They're always admiring what they're doing with their clients, what their next steps are,
Yeah.
and they're adapting and they're changing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which is cool.
totally. Like formerly when I was at other brokerages too, it was almost like crabs in a bucket. You kind of like everyone's trying to like climb
Figure
on
it
top
out,
of
yeah.
each other to like try to get who's the first place and which award did you get, what level are you at, and it was just like kind of toxic. And then so this kind of attitude of like, hey, admiring iron sharpens iron, admire other people that are doing well and reflect on how are they doing things and having open conversation about how are you guys doing things. Maybe I'm going to improve from that. This is how I'm doing things here is kind of it's a different culture that you bring into and a philosophy that you've really contributed to. Because I know people that admire your your personal team, you keep your people together, and everybody is on the same page, sharing the same value system, very responsible, and they've really grown. You guys have really grown together, which is amazing to kind of see. And even within your group, your own resale and project group, everyone's so congratulatory of each other.
Absolutely. We're celebrating
Oh my
every
gosh.
achievement,
Every
every
win.
win.
Yeah.
If a deal falls through, like how do we help each other? Like what do we say? What do we how do we move on? And so I created this. You know how we always have webinars and seminars, and so
you
once
just
a
did
month,
one.
I just did Backseat CEO is what I named my seminars.
Oh,
the
okay.
reason why the name behind that is, how a lot of like CEOs they're sitting in the back seat of a car and the driver is driving. But if you actually ever notice a lot of movies, the CEO is always asking the driver for their opinion, for advice. And so for me to as a play on with the words is, as a CEO, because I've been working on my own business, you're the driver in this situation. You're the driver of your own business. But how am I going to give advice to you? How am I, I'm already there, but I'm going to lift you up and help you climb the ladder. And so you're in the driver's seat. So my first seminar or webinar was on budgeting. And it's actually the attendance was amazing. We had top producers even at that to show up, asking for templates and worksheets afterwards because they have not even done their own budgeting, of
course. Right.
But they've been just super successful because of their connections and their follow-ups and discipline. But they actually have never really budgeted
Or
and
built.
looked at their financing.
Yeah, right.
So even just delivering and I know money's a really hard topic to discuss because some people are shameful, some people don't have it, some people, it's a tough topic. So anyways, I talked about how I budgeted. I was very, very transparent with all my expenses. I laid it out on the screen share. And yeah, hopefully those worksheets will help.
Oh, they will.
Agents.
They will. Yeah. The feedback was really good.
Yeah.
And
you
the
actually
attendance
gave
was
me
cute.
some examples too.
Yeah. It's always good. Well, I mean, and I think you always get better. You get better and better and better. But money is very tricky for some people. And for some reason, it's a really big deal. Like really, to talk about it. But really, that's the one thing I wish they taught in high school was how to deal with your money.
Literacy.
Yes,
and,
exactly.
Yeah,
that's the one thing I wish they started with.
Yeah.
Because that's what helps us kind of move forward. It's our currency.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of people kind of dig their head in the sand, it's like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. Like, and so like to shine a light on it and, being like, okay, this is important and this is going to help to progress your business. And this is an important part of what we do as well. If you're the CEO of a company, you got to look at it from, a cost benefit analysis perspective or how are we budgeting ourselves appropriately so that we're not
overexceeding,
overextending, or you want to be efficient and stuff like that. And like, it's just like so awesome to have somebody that has been in the business for over a decade and more, being a successful team lead, showing their own stuff. Like, this is exactly what I use. This is exactly the stuff. And it's just so like
inspiring.
Yeah, it's inspiring.
It's inspiring, Jenny.
And also like.
Yes.
Yeah, and people get to learn from that, and also you get it's weird because sometimes like I think of Jenny as the kid teaching on the bunk bed, her sister. It's weird because as the teacher you reinforce your own positive behavior, and it almost puts you on an accountability pedestal because if you get off of that, everyone's gonna be like, remember when you were teaching the course about budgeting and you're not budgeting yourself? It's kind of like forces you to do those things, right? Because doesn't that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like I hate math. Like I hate math.
That's surprising for
an Asian.
Yeah, I didn't say it.
He's hiding now. No, I hate math too, but I'm only half. So, like
I could tell you all about marketing and branding, but yeah, math is not fun, but it's a necessity, and that's part of the workshop.
I think people have to realize math and budgeting and everything does not have to be complicated. It is easy.
It's easy. Just plug and go.
Put it on a piece of paper. Yeah. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, and you got to look into yourself like what's going to be sustainable to you. So for example, like, just in my own, even for my own budgeting, like a lot of people use spreadsheets. A lot of people use like these really complicated computers things. I don't use computers.
He's a back of the napkin type guy.
Yeah.
So I use my notebook. Like
paper.
I do my budget. I do my budget in my notebook. I review everything, all my expenses there. And
I think this is important though. You should have somebody you can talk to about it. I think with regards to money, and then maybe a multiple, like a couple people.
A financial planner. Like an accountant.
Yeah, or even just someone you admire, a friend, whatever. I call Mike all the time. I'm like, what do you think I should do?
Yeah,
like, don't do this. And I was like, okay, I just did it.
When I talk, like some of my clients that I've met, they're amazing, and they're it's funny, like they're some of them are incredibly wealthy, but you never guess that they were wealthy. Like,
that's the best one.
Never guessed.
Stay humble.
And I asked them, I said, please like share with me how you got to this place. How do you get there? And then they told me exactly what they did. And it's funny, like, they're either, older or younger. Like when I see like young people that are really succeeding too, I ask them like, what are you doing for your, resource allocation or so on and so forth. And you can learn so much.
100%.
Yeah. And, it's also, by working with people, like Jenny was saying, like, working with people and showing them what you do, it just reinforces. And as you're even teaching, you're like, oh, I could actually improve this and make this better. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, as you're doing
I don't need to pay that.
As you're doing the class, like, you're kind of like, troubleshooting, I could probably do this better. Yeah. Like, and then someone asks a question that's really good, and you're like, oh, I didn't think of it that way. I'm going to improve how I do it. right? And it's kind of like it's weird. It's funny. Arlene and I, so Arlene, obviously our partner at Oakwyn, we used to like do university classes together, and we used to like get a chalkboard, or like at the time it was a chalkboard. Now they use whiteboards, and we used to like teach each other the stuff to before the final exam. Like she was like teaching me all the like the I forget which courses we took, like biomechanics or something like that.
How come you guys are in the same class? Aren't you like older than?
Yeah, she's
Or did
older.
you
Yeah,
feel- she's older?
Yeah, she's
Okay.
older, but she actually
Electives and
yeah.
stuff, right?
Well, she started in she started in arts
Okay.
in university, but then by going through the first 2 years, she decided that I don't really like this. I'm more like a science person, so she went back to like the beginner science courses. So I did some beginner science courses with her, in college, and we would, we would like
Things
learn.
haven't changed, just so you guys know. He's still learning from her on a whiteboard.
Yeah. Exactly. So she would teach me
I just
everything.
saw that this
Oh,
week.
that's why she bought the whiteboard for me.
Actually, we do need that whiteboard. I was like, Jenny, get the Jenny.
Yeah. And so we would like teach each other the course essentially, and then basically that was like the best way to learn. And we, we both
Bouncing back and forth
Yeah.
with people and having a conversation is the best way of just working things out. I
Totally.
think.
Oh, yeah.
I think you just have to be able to like let it all out and not make a decision right away, but just hear different outlooks and
Oh, yeah.
have a different opinion once in a while.
Well, everybody comes from a different background, whether it be through ethnicity or culture or upbringing or education. And so when you're collabing with like many different people, you come up with all of a sudden like these brilliant ideas.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whether you execute them, that's a whole different story. But just even getting that flow of energy, that flow of conversation of how do you think outside the box and how do you get out of your comfort zone? Those are the things that for me anyways, have given me opportunities. So even just like this podcast, from this podcast, I was able to moderate framework retreats, like
yes, I know.
conferences. From there, I ended up, I'm now doing voiceovers, paid voiceovers for passive income. I'm like,
What?
how did this come?
Did you
like,
know this?
How?
Braden's like,
Wow.
the
This is
Podfather's like, what?
This is simply from me wanting to do online coaching because not online coaching, stage coaching. And because of COVID, I couldn't do stage coaching at conferences. So I decided to do podcast. So it's like just like one thing manifested after the other. And you just don't say no right away. You just have to figure things out.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Figure it out. I think we are running out of time. I wanted Jenny to stay for another little bit.
I
but
wish she could stay.
stay for long because this is like
I'll be back.
this is like
I'll be
in the
back.
house meet Oakwyn because
Yeah,
we
so
got
Jenny's
a guest.
podcast, if you guys don't know,
Yes.
plug to Jenny's podcast,
you.
In the House
Plug,
podcast
plug,
with
plug.
Jenny Wun and Tony Singh is an amazing podcast.
I love Tony.
It kind of like in your intro it says it's for women, but actually I listen to the podcast and it's like, and I think a lot of men listen to the
There
podcast
are.
too, and it's just so full of like it's fun and it's also full of great information and education as well, and so it's just incredible.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
that, just being surrounded by all the experts and leaders that are on our guest as a guest, it's been amazing. Like I've learned so much. I've gained more out of this podcast
Yeah.
than the listeners in my
That's the
opinion.
best
I've
way of doing
grown
it.
so much. Yeah.
Jenny. Oh my gosh.
I'll be
Yeah.
back. I'll be
Yeah.
one of those guests that
Yeah,
like,
Jenny's
is
a
a
mainstay.
reoccurring,
Yeah, Jenny's a
recurring every
mainstay
Series one.
guest. Yeah. Okay, guys.
Okay.
And Jenny, let's say somebody wants to sit down with you for a coffee, wants to get in touch with you. What's the best way in which they can do that?
Sure, thank you. Jenny Wun at Oakwyn.com.
Right.
You can also reach me at 604-961-3559 or go to the Oakwyn website
Right. Yes.
and fill in the form.
Join.
Yeah, so
what's-
you can go to oakwyn.com/join and type in the message box evolve 2022, and then just write in that message box as well, I want to join Jenny's office, or I want to like talk
Northwest.
to Jenny.
Well, you'll
over.
see it.
Jenny.
It's a drop down. It says Northwest.
Yeah, and then basically you'll be able to connect with Jenny and go from there.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Jenny.
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you for
Yeah.
having-
Okay,
thanks for
guys,
coming.
and thank you guys so much for listening to the Oakwyn Podcast. It means so much to us that you're listening. We're really grateful, and it's funny. We've been getting a lot of like messages and emails and texts. It's actually quite heartwarming to see.
Like, are we opening up
Yeah,
too
but,
much?
but at the same time, like I see these texts, but I do not see the
Reviews.
So if you're
Give us
listening,
the reviews,
if you're reviews and the likes and subscribes and shares. Okay, so if you guys are listening to this and you've enjoyed this podcast with Jenny Wun or any of the Oakwyn podcasts, please rate us 5 out of 5 on the podcast platform you're listening to it on. And if you are interested in learning more about Oakwyn and being a part of Oakwyn, Morgan, what do we do?
You go to oakwyn.com/join and put in that message box, Evolve 2022.
Right.
And one of the leaders will reach out to you.
Yeah, and Jenny, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today. Jenny Wun, everyone!
Thank you.
Hey!